We'll be back from the break. It's 5 minutes past 9. You're still watching STARTIMES Business. I'm Andrew Barije with Joram Paul's uncle this morning to be driving your business. Of course, hope you're really quite doing great well and you've already arrived, and maybe you're just on your way heading back there and you're streaming on our YouTube channel at Smart24 TV live on YouTube. Well, right about now, before we get into our business insight, don't forget the markets on the Zabo platform, which have already kick-started. Now, *92# is the code for you there to be availed with a number of options where you will be in position to buy government bonds and securities for just as little as 15,000 Ugandan shillings. Now, this is effective Monday up to Friday, 8:15 till 3:15 p.m. except from the weekends and the public holidays when these markets can't be accessed. But despite the fact, you have these other days to capitalize and make yourself quite some huge money, something which I believe is very key and influential for your personal growth and development as a person and as a trader, just in case you encountered possible trade deficits that is throughout the week. Now, Zabo made this a reality. You simply need your mobile phone and *92#, the USSD code for you, and the rest will be history as you will be walking into your path to financial freedom. Now, Zabo says, my money, my future, and Altex East Africa says, do something new. Well, of course, heading straight into our business insight, this is in line to do with the arts culture in Uganda and, of course, seeing its contributions to the economy. You know, art is quite very big in most cases. I mean, it manifests in different ways, and we all have different aspects in which we understand the art. It can manifest through, of course, paintings, the drawings, music, movies, and, you know, way of life, literally, cultures. You know, it's all art. But we've noticed that some people have been in position to dig this art, and actually they earn a living for themselves, you know, and make money. And you know, when they talk about that everything we do, let's be original. Yes, that's the art. It's the art. It's art. It's art. I mean, in everything we do. You know,
I think with time, as we've been growing up, we've come to realize that at times we relate to art as, or we relate to artists as musicians.
Exactly, musicians. Yes.
So we relate to artists, the musicians as artists, not necessarily because they are, because it's supposed to be that, but because it is art. What they're doing is artistic.
Artistic, perfect.
Because when you're an artist, you create. So you're a creator of something, or let's say you're creating something out of
nothing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it is your idea boiling up, cooking, and you know, let's say you woke up one day, you thought of something, you wrote it down. Tomorrow it has become a poem or a song.
A song, yeah.
It's the same way as someone will come out of the blue and say, I want to construct, let's say, or I want to make, or I want to mend a sweater or something. And then, but I want this design, I have this design in my head.
In my head, yeah.
How you perfectly put it, the way it is from your head, is originality, or it is how you've actually been thinking about it.
Exactly.
Then that means you become an artist.
An artist.
So I like it how you said actually art is wide. It's actually a huge scope.
Very
when
huge.
we bring in the word culture, the art and culture. Culture, I think, in my own understanding, culture is more like what drives you.
What drives you to do what you do?
What you do, because culture is normally deep-rooted within us.
That is true.
Because there is that culture where you would say, in our culture, we don't do this. In our culture, we do things this way.
This way.
There is a culture that is actually known for, let's say, for example, if you have to look at, normally in Uganda, we normally associate cultures to tribes.
Tribes, cultures, yeah.
You know, tribes or regions. But there are other,
by the way,
you know, there are other countries that actually don't actually, you know, drive culture to tribes, and it's all about identity.
Perfect.
And it's something that we've just realized in this kind of generation, that culture shouldn't be only about your tribe. That I'm in Uganda, and in Buganda we have our cultural beliefs, which is okay. We need to protect that, but there is also that culture that represents an identity as Uganda.
As a Ugandan,
and I think it has limited the Buy Uganda, Build Uganda policy in regards to arts and in regards to the arts and culture,
because
we've lacked that sense of identity as a country, even in regards to music. For example.
True, we've lost
ask
it.
So which kind of music do we play as a country?
We don't have an identity.
You will know, Nigerians have a specific, type of music that they play.
An instrument you hear, and you know that this is Nigerian.
Nigerian. So even when you go to Europe, most of them feel associated to the Nigerian music because they know. It's just like the South African way. Now, South Africans are known for the amapiano kind of music.
Yes.
So their kind of culture is, their music is a dance to music.
House party, they call it house music.
They are a partying, cultured kind of people. They're always, up and running in regards to, their kind of music is crazy.
It's crazy, you have to be jumping up around.
Needs when you've taken some good drinks of yours, you've lost it, and that is the South African music. Nigerian music, for example, they have their own culture. And their culture has actually been also supported by their accent.
By the way, talk about accent.
It also brings, but when you come to Uganda, we lack that sense of originality, I think, because of the fact that we've looked at quite a number of...
Too much westernization.
And then there is also... the Europeans come into context. So we don't know where to fall. Are we support, because at least the Nigerians, it's more like if you'll excuse me, it's more like the Jamaican. They blended their culture and made their own accent out of English.
By the way, true. Like yes, true. Very interesting, actually. Very interesting. And you see, the funny thing is that once culture, when you move out there, what's going to provide a distinction with what you have is your culture. Because if I go out there in Europe and I want to be like them, there's nothing new I'm going to bring out. I'm boring, in other words. But they want to see something else.
They want to know, they want to see what represents.
Who are you?
One time I was in an audition. I went to an audition with before a European lad. And
it was an audition
it was a specific interview for, simply the kind of jobs we are doing.
Oh, okay.
And he told me, you see, Joram, I want to feel the element of you. I don't want you to do something the way you've seen the other person doing it.
Okay.
And he was actually saying, I don't want you to be formal. When he was saying, at times when you're too formal, it's like you're scripting. You're on a script.
Okay.
You're not you. You're just scripting something. You have it in mind. It's more like a computer that has been generated to have a format.
To follow. Okay.
So it was like, I just want to feel you. I want you as a person.
Okay.
And I think it takes us back to what you've actually been mentioning, that at times we lack our originality. And we want to fit into the other situation. I think it brings us back to the reason as to why maybe Eddie Kenzo is breaking through the European markets, and going in for these awards, because he is himself.
Yeah, true.
He's not going to speak the English that maybe Big Trill is speaking.
Yes,
he's not going to rap like Navio. Because maybe Navio has some sort of background, is a different one. You're looking at Eddie Kenzo, who's representing a Ugandan man who ideally did not go through the education system of Uganda of completing.
Okay.
So he reached a stage, like he says, that I didn't complete school. So he gives you that advantage to understand that, okay, if someone doesn't complete school and stops at, let's say, Form 2, this is how they are.
They are in Uganda.
Is this how they are?
Is this how? Okay,
Are they resilient enough? Can they break the barriers and go to the top? So you look at the whites and they feel so, inspired by that situation. It also takes us back to, let's say, Bobby Wine, turned politician now, because at times you get to realize that some people started associating with him. Those who didn't love him musically fell in love with the story. With the stories changed.
Yeah, true.
It goes back to him being himself, and people knowing that, okay, that's him. So I think the only problem we have in the country is the lack of identity.
There's an identity crisis.
There's an identity crisis whereby we are living in a situation where we do not want to accept that this is who I am, not who I want, who I am supposed to be, but this is who I am, and I want to be like the other person, but through my own way. greater than the other person, but through my own identity. So I think it is the same thing as we look at how the arts and culture sector is contributing to the economy, because ideally when you look at it, it has actually employed quite a number of people, both professional and non-professionally. And I think, surprisingly though, the non-professionals are talented and they understand the craft.
The non-professionals, they have the art.
They have the art.
It's natural.
And they know the culture, by the way. It is sad.
By the way, true.
Now, the professionals who don't know anything about the identity know the business game. So I think
now both need each other.
Yeah, hit each other. Why? Because now we are into the money economy, whereby someone who understands the business game,
yes,
or who understands the business world, has more say than someone who is talented.
Who's talented.
So you can have your talent, but if you don't know how to navigate through, you're not getting it. That is why a musician who has more talent now isn't making money. But the one who has less
who knows
talent,
the strategy,
but who knows the strategy, whether he knows the culture, will just come and sing what you could actually call bubblegum music and break through.
Okay.
We've seen the likes of back in the time. Trust me, we had movies that had the real storylines of our Ugandan culture.
We did
the same way we had in Nigeria, but the people back then didn't understand the movie business.
The movie business at the moment,
they understood the culture presentation. That you can write a storyline, whether it's in Uganda, and it's appealing. By the way, movies back then were educative, informative, and entertaining.
Yeah, the Mariam
they had humor.
They used to be on
but
top.
It's just of recent when you look at the Mariam Dagiris of this era, when they've actually got the exposure of Nigeria, that they are now turning it into professional business. Is when you look at the people like I think people. How am I forgetting his name here?
Who?
John Segawa.
Yeah.
He has actually made some huge investments in Uganda's movie industry, and for the people who have actually been in the game, there is a certain respect they give to John Segawa. Because of how he has evolved in generations. The likes of the Nabuisos are just now getting into the professional business. That is in my own view, because we saw the Nabuisos start acting right from the hostels, and back then now they own their own film production companies. But when you look at the John Segawas, the likes of Katolubwama, now the Katolubwamas represent our movie industry.
Those were the true identity of the Ugandan movie industry.
The likes of Abe Muchibi.
Abe Muchibi, yes. Abe Muchibi was
likes of Abe Muchibi because he has lived generations and he has represented fully in each generation. So he has been in a generation where it was all about talent. He's now in a generation where it is all about money.
Commercial.
And he's still presenting throughout. So it is... I think when we look at the commercial situation, with the fact that the arts and culture sector contributes 3.5% to the GDP, there is a lot
to be expected. And we mentioned something about commercial talent and people having knowing how the game works. You see, Nigerians back then, their movies weren't appealing as they are today. If you look at, if you had to watch those famous movies that and you compare the picture,
it wasn't about theirs.
It was theirs, even the acting.
We didn't actually focus on the picture quality.
On the picture quality, but the story.
The storyline.
But what beat me was how they were able to market that state.
Exactly.
The production wasn't at its best, honestly.
But at least at the time, it is the same thing that helped them grow, because they set out a culture. People knew the storyline of Nigerians is
they were predictable. Witchcraft,
So by the time we went into a situation of predicting the movies, they had already started changing a little bit. Things changed. But now they are now into the music. Rather, they are now into the movie business. Where they are changing storylines. To the modern world,
they are in the modern age.
But again, still under the script which was set.
Of course, there's a script which was set way back.
So a script that clearly showed the identity of Africa. So and Nigeria helped people understand the African narrative and the storylines.
Wow.
And I think here, as we look into this business insight, for example, these are some of the things that we need to look at before we even go deeper into understanding how are we generating the money. Where is our culture at? How do we present ourselves? Because there's always a saying that money is always something we look at, but it should always come as the final result. You need to craft your art so well that by the time money starts coming in, it's worth it. It's worth it, because there's a time money will start coming in even when you're not doing anything.
By the way,
and it's just,
do people know these dynamics? By the way, that's very interesting. Before we get into this discussion, I remember some people used to say, Nigerian movies, the prediction, when not towards the end, to God be the glory. We always expected that towards the end of the movie.
And now things have changed.
All right, let's get into the discussion right now. Shalbert.
And it made a lot of contributions in the country. And we realized that over 92 professionals are employed in arts and culture sector. And we also realize that persons that are employed directly, about 360. And these are persons that are employed directly in arts and culture sector. And which means we have a lot of opportunities the government can also raise from arts and culture sector. And from that report, it shows that it has a very good contribution to the GDP. We had about 3.5% in the contributions to the GDP. That means arts and culture sector, when the government puts a lot of efforts to unify it, to professionalize it, and this can bring a lot of contributions in the country. Like in other countries, take for example Nigeria, it's number 2 in raising GDP in the country. When we look at France, it's number 1 contributing factors in GDP. And that means if we, as the government, professionalize this arts and culture sector, we can benefit a lot and can also raise a lot of income. And we have so many of our young people that are now practicing in different aspects of arts and culture in the country. And locally, music is expected to generate about 2.9 billion. And this is as part of the projection by 2020. And we are working towards this to make sure that if the copyright protections has also been strengthened, and then other aspects of arts and culture is completely regulated and done well, I think we shall be able to realize this for the country. And in Kenya, for example, annual growth rates in digital music, it's about 10%. That is in digital music, because it's well digitalized and well regulated and well organized. And that is why our country is now working towards this aspect. There are a lot of digital platforms which the government is trying now to come with it and also to market. And through UNCC, the government has already injected some money to make sure that the platform has to be able to produce a lot of efforts that can also regulate the artist's music, the dynamics, and then impacts in terms of trade and markets. And when we look at our persons that are already employed in this sector, it is a kind of informal employment, but it is again also promoting trade and also markets globally. Take for example, recently when we had our space in Dubai, so many of our culture was displayed. Our culture was displayed, and a lot of markets opportunities were created for arts and culture in the country. And so many people went and displayed this, and also those people were also interested about our culture. Recently, our team went to Ethiopia, and this has also been a very good avenue. And India, another team went to India, and this has also been another avenue to market our culture. And this has been a very good avenue for us as an individual or as a country. It still operates at informal level. And this is a very big challenge in the country, because it has, if the government can also put a lot of effort to make it formal as a formal sector, it can also be a great opportunity. It has also a very strong legal regimes to support it. Lack of strong legal system that can also support this, because we have so many laws in terms of that support culture, but it's not well regulated, and it's also scattered in different places. So it's something that we needed to have a lot of efforts to make it done better.
Yes, of course, talking about culture and how best we can really sell our culture as a country, Uganda, out there. But of course, we're going to get into the break right now. But when we return, we shall talk a little bit on that aspect of exporting our cultures into the different countries in Uganda. That is through the exhibitions that are held out there. But before that, don't forget the Markets on the Zabo platform, which already opened. Now, *92# is the USSD code for you there, and you'll be availed with a number of options where you'll be able to buy government bonds and securities for as little as 15,000 Ugandan shillings. Now, the markets open at 8:15 a.m., closing to 3:15 p.m. This is effective Monday up to Friday, except on the weekends and the public holidays when these markets can't be accessed. But despite the fact you have the rest of the days to capitalize and make quite some money for you there, something which I believe personally it's very key and profitable for your growth and development as a person and also as a business. When you have another side income for you, regardless of your location, you will be able to buy bonds and securities. The number is simply *92# is simply the code for you there to be availed there. Now, Zab says my money, my future, and Altex East Africa says do something new for yourself come the year 2023. Well, now at 4 minutes to 9:30, let's get into the break. And when we return, we shall be taking a look at on-ground discussions in line with the SDGs, definitely, and a brief discussion on the culture. Good morning.